I was talking to some people about, I'll get to the question in a minute that I want to throw out there, but I was talking to some people about different like websites, friends I have in other cities, don't know about radio ratings, didn't want to get into all that, but just kind of traffic in general. And they all say since the lockout started, which was December the 1st, like it's just kind of the activity is down. If there are sites that people go to maybe for baseball info or a lot of baseball coverage, it's really, for lack of a better term, it's really kind of hurt the business. And I'm talking about the media business. So that's not shocking exactly. In fact, not surprising at all, really, because we don't have the buzz of free agent moves or trades or speculation. I mean, everything's gone dark, and that's kind of what happens when you do this. And it's something that MLB and the Players Association, they can claim they understand that and they know that, and it's no big deal. We'll get this thing worked out, blah, blah, blah. Well, here's an idea. Why don't you get it worked out sooner rather than later? You can't do that though, right? So,
no.
But anyway, Jim, the question I'm really interested in, I wonder if fans of baseball, Cardinals included, obviously, maybe most of all Cardinals, I wonder if they're so turned off or disillusioned by this or left cold by this that it's kind of fundamentally changed their interest in the sport. And, there's other factors, too, including the way the sport is played, all the flaws in the entertainment factor, all that. We all know baseball's, even those guys like us who love it, I mean, it has been increasingly more difficult to watch. It's pretty boring. But, every fan reaches their limit. And the pandemic just kind of changed a lot of outlooks on a lot of different things, most of which had nothing to do with sports. But we've talked about this before. The pandemic was a huge blow in this regard. I mean, obviously, strictly in baseball, obviously because it wiped out most of the season. They played a rushed season. It wasn't hardly ideal. It was something better than nothing and all that. But, like I found out, and I've said this before on the show, and I know a lot of people found out that, they didn't necessarily need baseball. It was like they like it, but they found out, it was fine. I mean, there's other things that had my attention, other things I was more concerned about. And baseball was almost an afterthought. So I'm just wondering what people think about the game and whether it'll affect their enthusiasm to the point of, not going to games, sort of a response that because there's a lockout and maybe it'll go much longer than we hoped. Are people going to just say, that's it, they're not going to get a nickel of mine this year, or I'm going to wait until the second half of the season. I'm going to withhold my support for a while. I mean, I'd like to know what people think. And because I think the longer this goes, and I'm stating the obvious, the longer this goes, the more disillusioned and disgusted fans will become. I don't think there's any doubt about that, especially when these two sides start running their mouths and making themselves sound like people that are barely, scraping together a living or something. So anyway, how you doing? What do you think?
It's interesting when you bring this up because the timing is something I'm thinking of right away for this reason. One, this would have been, the week of the winter meetings. Mm-hmm. And it would have been buzz after buzz after buzz. And a lot of the trade rumors never happened, but that's part of being a fan. You hear, did you hear this late last night? They said this might happen or that. So you get the juices flowing as a baseball fan. You're like, well, what would that mean? And you mentioned websites and things not getting hits. Well, if we had that this week, you'd be going, well, wait a minute. Let's check out this guy. Let's go down the rabbit hole and see what this guy's all about or that guy's all about. It's gone. And that's frustrating for baseball fans because that has become part of being a baseball fan as much as going to the games during the season. Winter meetings, you lock that down. I got to see what's going on with my team. For me, when I was younger, Bernie, one of the craziest memories, and I'll never forget it, and I think the anniversary was yesterday, was the day that Whitey Herzog pulled off that trade to get Raleigh Fingers and that big thing. And what I remember about it, Bernie, was I'm a kid, For some reason, we didn't have school. I don't know why. And we're walking through a mall, and this is when Walgreens used to have restaurants. And I look, somebody left a paper on the table there. And remember, we didn't have internet back then or anything. And I see the headline, cards make trade. And I forget, what the numbers were, this many for that many. I'm like, whoa, what's this all about? And then that gets you hooked as a fan. And
it does.
So that's gone. And another thing from a standpoint of, you said, are people going to withhold dollars? This is the time for renewals. It's like, hey, let's see if we can go get some tickets for Christmas, and give them away to me. Or, you know what, I'm going to do myself a Christmas present. And we're going to get season tickets. Why would you get season tickets now? You might not have a season. I mean, it hurts the game in so many different ways.
It does. It's
a shame that it's an overstatement, but it's a shame they don't see it.
Yeah, that's what perplexes me, and that tells you that it tells all of us that they really are out of touch. They claim they're not. I mean, they really almost take offense when people say that, but there's no urgency on their part, and it's just very unusual because you hit on something that is just so obvious. I mean, the Cardinals, what we heard all of this past season was that. And I absolutely believe them. I mean, they're absolutely telling the truth. Bill DeWitt Jr. and Bill DeWitt III, saying like, look, we a big part of our business is group sales. A big part of our business is, people buying blocks of tickets like well in advance.
Yeah,
and that was pretty much wiped out by the pandemic because people didn't know if there was going to be a wide open season, full 162 games. Okay, but what will be the stadium limitations? Will how many fans will be allowed in? What about later in the year? Will they open it up? I mean, there was just so much uncertainty that people just held off, and a lot of their tourist dollars, and the Cardinals really are a regional draw, a very strong regional draw historically. And a lot of those tourist dollars, people coming from surrounding states, Cardinals fans not only love the team, but it's a great weekend getaway during the spring and the summer, maybe early fall. They lost a lot of that business too. So it's like, here we are again. I mean, I assume there's still a lot of financial challenges out there that are sort of a leftover from the pandemic. I know the unemployment numbers have gone down, but I also saw a headline of a story, I didn't read it, that there was some kind of record set about like people quitting their jobs. I think it was the month of October. Maybe it was November. I feel stupid that I didn't glom onto that story and at least read a few paragraphs. So the state of the economy confuses me because there's conflicting signals. So look, I don't think this is the time of year that people might have been making decisions on whether, how much of a plunge to take on baseball as far as buying stuff early. Buying tickets early, ordering merchandise. I mean, all that stuff, but mostly just buying season tickets or season ticket plans. Well, now you don't even know. They can't say with 100% certainty that this will not impact the regular season. They can't say that. I mean, I really don't think they're that self-destructive that they would spill this thing all the way into the regular season, but you never can count that out because they get insane. Yeah. I mean, greed makes people insane. So, there's that. So I think people already were maybe holding off a bit, or financially had some challenges that might have caused them to hesitate about, buying tickets right now. Well, you ice your business now. You kill your business. It's the winter. You should be selling. You can't sell any. You can sell stuff. You can. I mean, they're selling ticket plans and all that for the holidays, because it does make stuff like that traditionally does make for a good Christmas present, a good holiday present. But I'm sure that business has taken a hit. So it's like, here we go again. It's like everyone's interest in baseball is served by a fast resolution to this. But I don't see anybody sprinting to a negotiating table. So it's just it's just sickening is what it is. And, you know, I don't hate on anybody. I know I sound like I do. I understand there's some need for changes in the economic system. I get it. I'm a big boy that way. But the thing, you know what the thing that bothers me most of all, and you probably know what it is. It isn't that they have to have a standoff and they do have to fix some things on each side. And that does take time, right? I understand that. I'm cool with that. But it just, the lack of urgency is appalling. And just the fact that they're so tone deaf. They're just so oblivious to real world matters. And they really don't care enough about the damage they're doing to their industry. I mean, they can have, a labor dispute. Those things are common in America. But they have a labor dispute and they just completely ignore. They really don't care about the damage they're doing to their own game. Because this isn't like, a factory that makes tires or whatever it is, where they have a labor stoppage and there's a labor battle and maybe the plant shuts down for a little while. Well, people are going to need tires, and I'm just using tires because that's the first thing I thought of. They're still going to need tires. It's not like they say, well, first of all, most people aren't even going to know that the tire plant shut down because of a labor dispute. Most people won't even know. But even those that are, what are you going to say? Like, well, I'm never driving a car again. I'll never buy no tires. These people. Well, it ain't like that in sports. I mean, because there's an emotional connection, whether it's a volatile connection where people takes things really personally, and they're really happy, but then they're really mad about things. And then when you take the game away from them, this isn't a tire factory where people are going to have to buy tires whether there was a labor dispute or not. The response to these kind of things in sports is like people are disillusioned and they're like, hell with these guys. Both sides, a pox on both your houses. It's not as easy to pick up where you left off because it is not an essential necessity. The way that other businesses are essential to lifestyle and just basic everyday needs. You got to go buy food.
Yeah.
So if a supermarket chain, for whatever reason, would have a labor dispute and there's people on a picket line outside or whatever, okay, you may not like the visual of it. You may be turned off in general by it, but you still got to go to the grocery store after it's over. You really don't have any choice. So baseball's different. All these sports are different. You take the sport away, people do have a choice. And they tend to take it very personally. So I'm just wondering where people are. And I know that it's it's December the 9th. I mean, the lockout just started. I'm aware of that. And so to some extent, I will plead guilty to kind of jumping the gun a little bit about checking, the pulse of the fans. But I'm just really curious about it.
We got a couple. Yeah.
But go ahead, I'm sorry, my man.
We got a couple on the Bergarelli Cutlery text line here. Different views here. One says, I'm used to the shenanigans. Cartel's going to cartel. All leagues have their issues.
It ain't the NFL. Don't be calling nobody a cartel. I'm just kidding, but that's reserved for the NFL right there, But no, point well taken. I'm laughing at it. That's good.
Another one. I am done with baseball after going a season with no fans, then limited fans last year for owners and players to egotistically just assume that fans will rush back after another labor stoppage is more than I am willing to tolerate.
Yeah, no, amen. I mean, I get it. And like we were talking about yesterday, I made a big deal about that because to me it is a big deal. Are you kidding me? MLB basically pulling the plug on all its media platforms, whether it be their YouTube channel or their own website, MLB Network, all the team websites. If some 12-year-old kid or, whatever, or just anybody who wants to go in there and say, remember that crazy play, that rundown at Wrigley Field? I feel like looking at that because that's a great memory. Let me go look at that. I mean, there's no baseball right now, but I can still enjoy some of the stuff I saw last year. Let me go to MLB.com. Let me go to the Cardinals site. Let me look at that video. It's not there.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's erased. So like I said yesterday, and I apologize for being redundant, but I don't sit here thinking that, well, everyone who listened to the show yesterday is listening again right now. It's just like when it comes to the point where you can have your labor dispute, but it comes to the point where you are taking the players off of your websites, their likenesses, their images, videos with their highlights, and you're doing that at MLB Network, and you're doing it at MLB.com and on various YouTube channels, where you're doing something that severs the ties completely to fans this winter. You don't even give the fans a connection to the game, even if they want to do something as sweet and wonderful as reliving some of their favorite highlights of their team for the past season. To see Harrison Bader play Daredevil in center field, to see that crazy rundown at Wrigley Field. That was one of the all-timers.
Yes.
To see all the stuff that Tyler O'Neill does, to see the great plays by Arenado. If people want to go to your site, I don't know how many people would, but if people want to go to your site and they're like, well, I want to click on I'm sure they have an Arenado defensive play highlight video somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
No, they don't. They've erased that too. So what are we doing here? I mean, that's what it comes down to. What the hell are they doing? It's just, like I said, baseball hates itself more than anyone hates baseball. Baseball absolutely hates its own sport. Baseball hates the people in the sport, and it's a strange way to do business. And one day, I think it really will catch up with them. But even as of last year, the billions of dollars that revenue that are produced in the game, hasn't really slowed down the train, but I don't know. I think everyone's got their breaking point to an extent. If I didn't have a media job and two media jobs that I really love, and I do love baseball, but there probably would be times where I would be like, you know what? I don't really care about these games right now. I'm going to watch something else. Hey, let's go to the movies. Let's do that. I'd probably withdraw somewhat.
Oh, yeah,
because I'm so sick of it, sick of this kind of stuff.
Agreed. Also on the Bertorelli Cutlery text line here, earlier work stoppages, the fans lost interest. It took Sosa McGuire to bring it back. They had to use the baseballs to generate interest again. It's apparent that this is all about money, and the owners want more, players want more, and yet again, the fans are ignored, falling victim to the apparent greed. Sad for sure. Fan support make the business possible.
No doubt, and it gives it energy too. We learned during the pandemic in that 60-game season, each team, that it's just not the same when fans aren't in there. Like we can debate like how much of the fans' ticket purchasing. Obviously, it makes an impact, and the Cardinals have even said that they set their payroll, based on the revenue they get, with ticket sales. It's a big part of their business. They have to rely on it. So there is a cause and effect there. I don't deny that. But at some point, but I also know that TV pays the bills to a large extent as well. So whatever the financial implications are, or whether fans are directly responsible for everything that everybody makes in baseball, they're certainly responsible for a percentage of it, a pretty healthy percentage of it. But beyond that, though, you go watch baseball, even in a non-pandemic year, you look on TV, the Cardinals are playing somewhere, maybe it's Pittsburgh, just some, I saw some American League games. I look at the Orioles every now and then, and there's, you might as well have an empty ballpark. You can barely see the fans. You barely hear them. Something happens in the game. The applause is kind of muted. It's there, but it's not exactly people on their feet, if 30,000 people or more, and it's festive and it's lively and it's noisy and you can hear all that great background stuff, and, when fans aren't there, man, it's, the game is cold. The game has no warmth. It has no energy. It has nothing colorful in terms of presenting entertainment. So no doubt you tick off your fans enough, it's going to hurt you, not just financially, but it's going to hurt you too, because a full ballpark or a nearly full ballpark just makes watching the sport so much better.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
So. Even the players mentioned when you had a chance to ask them last year from time to time, I heard it numerous times, it makes a difference to them. It was like, wow, when there were no fans, it was strange. But they were like having fans back in the ballpark makes a world of difference. Also on the Bertarelli Cutlery text line, that can save on my MLB package this year. Don't have to pay for that now.
There you go. Right. I mean, seriously. When I,
You're right.
when I was out of work, before, I was allowed to return to work because of a contract, and happily joined, 590 The Fan KFNS. It was worth the wait. But, one of the first things I did, even though we were financially fine, I mean, not to go into the details of my parting with the other station, but I didn't have any worries at that time. None at all. Although I was worried about the future because you could never take anything for granted, because there's a certain amount of time where whatever money was coming in would stop coming in. And then you're like, okay, now what? And I found myself like very determined to reduce expenses, And that was like the first time in my life. It's actually, I should be doing that anyway. But I really was just looking at everything and reducing expenses as much as I could. I mean, I'm negotiating with the telephone people to get, to get a lower rate and really save a lot of money every month. I'm negotiating with DirecTV to do the same, basically twice. I was able to lower what I'm paying. And I mean, all kinds of things. I won't bore people with the details, but it goes back to the point that, people only have average people, slightly average people financially is what I'm talking about. Even if people do think, okay, we're comfortable or whatever, they always are looking to save some money or to slash some costs. And a big part about sports is emotions, that emotional connection, that city pride. Fans identify with a team. The team identifies with the city. It's one big family in a way. But when this kind of thing happens, there's a sense of betrayal. And therefore, the anger and the frustration intensifies. And it's a lot stronger. And it's a lot more passionate. And passion burns both ways, So you never should take that for granted, that the money's always going to be there, or that the fans are always going to be there, because it's just not true. Like the one great text message we got on the Bertarelli Cutlery text line right at the beginning, even when the sport has been shut down in the past, most recently, during the 1994 season where there was no World Series, it really took a long time to regenerate the enthusiasm, and it started with Cal Ripken and chasing Lou Gehrig's record. This was after the strike when baseball returned, and then it did take McGuire and Sosa in the summer '98, and that really did a lot of the healing. People got excited by those things, and now that it's fashionable to claim, I knew those guys were cheating. I didn't get into that. Yeah, okay. If you knew they were cheating, you didn't care at the time.
Right. You just said, so what? Let's watch them play.
People found religion afterwards. But anyway, no. And think about that. How often do you have a record of that? Two records of that magnitude come along. Like, in other words, oh man, what are we going to do to stimulate in America the fans and get them back in the ballpark and get it back to where it was? It's like, wouldn't it be great if someone was chasing down a record that many said never would be broken, Lou Gehrig's consecutive game streak? Boy, wouldn't that be great if that happened? Well, Cal Ripken was closing in on it. Timing was perfect. One of these times it's going to happen. Someone's going to someone's going to take down the Roger Maris record. There's been some teases over, since 1961 when he did it. There's been some teases, but no one ever got just not close enough. And then all of a sudden, it's not one guy. It's two guys chasing the record, but also having almost what amounted to be like a daily home run duel. I mean, scoreboard watching everywhere, in Chicago, St. Louis, and everywhere else. So it was like a perfect storm that got people excited again. They forgot about the things that had ticked them off about baseball. So, well, what's it going to be this time? That's my question. What's it going to be this time? Especially when the game is not nearly as entertaining as it was then, right?
You had a 3-outcome game. What are you going to do to jazz that up, right?
Right? Well, if you're Rob Manfred, what you're going to do is put in all these idiotic gimmicky things that won't work and actually make the sport look even more ridiculous. So, like the robot umpires, everybody says they want them, but that trial run in the whatever that league is, the Atlantic League, it's independent. Yeah. That trial run was a disaster. We're not ready for that technology. So yeah, the seeing eye, robotic umpire. No, we got to get to work on his circuit boards or her circuit boards or something. I don't know. But
what happens when that thing goes awry, right? And you have a ball that's 3 feet outside and it just starts calling strikes. You go, well, that's what whoa, the thing's broke. What do we do now?
Back in the day, somebody like Pedro Guerrero would have taken care of it, or even maybe Jack Clark. They would have found out where that robotic umpire is, and they would have taken their bat to it, just smashed its face.
There you go. I like that.
That would be fun to watch.
Now it's broke. Now we can't play at all. Now what are we going to do?
So I don't know. I really don't. So I want to know what the stimulus will be this time around, because baseball was very, very, very lucky to have Ripken chasing Gehrig, followed by McGuire and Sosa chasing Maris and chasing each other. That's not there right now, and I don't know if there's going to be anything even remotely close to that as a source for re-energizing the game and the fan interest after another annoying lockout. Granted, it's the first one in 26 years. I get it, but this one's particularly annoying. Anyway.
So a few more texts that just basically say, hey, if this goes into the regular season, I'm out. This happens again. That'll be much longer for me to come back and go back to a game. I'll go spend my money elsewhere. Another one on the Bertarelli Cutlery text line with diminished fan support. Where will they get the money to pay all these guys? Good luck with that one.
Yeah, I guess they'll rely on the TV revenue, and that's still pretty lush, right? But,
yeah.
But no, it will create hardship one way or the other. It'll be hardship that they can endure, better than probably 98% of Americans. But still, it'll create some hardship.